Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Heel Shit. On today's episode, pro wrestling news, rumors, spoilers, discussions, and predictions. And your hosts, Dark Cordz and Dravyn Rhymes.
Welcome back to Heel Shit. Why do we call it that? Because bad guys do heel shit. I had a great time on vacation. Y'all don't give a fuck. Let's get into this. Dravyn, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, first off, I am so glad you're back. This past week has been dreadful without your knowledge and your wisdom, my guy. I bow to you being back. This week, we're actually going to have a really good episode, a really interesting episode, so we might run a little long because when we start rambling, we tend to go off key for a little bit. We are going to discuss our top 10 professional wrestlers. Now, there's a couple rules when it comes to this. Me and you have agreed to this. A, it can be of any era, of any reason, and if you include tag teams or factions, that counts as one entry. All right? Anything other than that, I think it's free game.
That sounds right to me. Before we get into it, I put a question out on Reddit for people to put in their top tens, and I picked a couple we're going to read out. First one from Redditor John Apsey, Jonapce. His top 10 list is as follows: Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold, Undertaker, John Cena, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Triple H, Eddie Guerrero, and AJ Styles. Your reaction?
Interesting. Now, when you read those off, is that 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
I would think it's 1 to 10.
Okay, because that's how I took it, was 1 to 10. Not going to lie, I heard a couple names on there that's on my personal top 10 list. All viable contenders, all of them, every one of those that you read off is a good argument for a future episode that we're going to do, our Mount Rushmore. So I can agree to that, but there's still a few names on there that I have on mine that wasn't on that particular one. What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of digging this. I mean, there are some that are not in my top 10 list, but should definitely be honorable mentions. I mean, there's one guy on here, on his list, that to me is the greatest professional wrestler on the planet right now, and he's not in my top 10 list. So yeah, I don't have a problem with this list. I love the Eddie Guerrero throw-in, and he's a legitimate top 10. I don't know if I'd make AJ Styles in my top 10 all time.
Interesting. Explain.
He's a great in-ring performer, but outside of that, is he anybody's favorite wrestler? Does he have that connection to the fans? I don't know. If you're talking about importance to the business, he's had a great career, but I don't think the business has changed because of him.
Okay.
All right. So the next Redditor is Redditor Bulky-Carpenter. Bulky Carpenter. Appreciate you reaching out, Bulky. His top 10 list, and again, I believe this is 1 to 10. Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Austin, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles again, Kenny Omega, Mr. Perfect, Macho Man, Samoa Joe, and The Rock.
Okay. One name stuck out, and it's one that I absolutely could not get behind. Only because even though he's been in the business for going on 12, 15 years, he's just now in the prime of his career. I'm referring, of course, to Kenny Omega. I want to see what he does in the next 10,
Mhm.
where he goes in the next 10 before I put him anywhere in a top 10. It makes sense.
I feel that. Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
agree with the other 9.
Hmm.
Mr. Perfect, Macho Man, Kurt Angle. I wasn't even thinking about Kurt Angle when I was making this top 10, but
I
that,
wasn't either, and that's a great pick.
yep,
I wasn't thinking Mr. Perfect either, who was definitely an honorable mention.
I agree to that.
Um,
That's a good top 10.
yeah, I'm not mad at it. I think you're right about Kenny Omega. I think he's got plenty of life left, and we'll see what happens before the end. Um, all right, let's get into it. But before we get into the top 10 list, if you guys do us a huge favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. We'd really appreciate it. All right, number 10, what you got, Dravyn?
My number 10, this is going out of left field. Now, keep in mind, when I made this top 10, of course, there's personal bias. But I also look into what you have done for the business, no matter what the company was, what you have done to grow, and where you're sitting now. So for my top 10, my number 10 is the fallen angel Christopher Daniels. Currently, he is head of talent relations for AEW, doing a fantastic job there. But let's look at what he's done outside of AEW. Let's go back to when he debuted in '93. He hit every independent scene all the way up till he got signed to TNA in 2002. Mind you, now this is coming from Vince Russo, so take this with a grain of salt. Christopher Daniels was actually supposed to be the higher power in that Ministry of Darkness storyline when Vince was shown to be the higher power. It was originally supposed to be Christopher Daniels. According to Vince Russo, again, take that for what it's worth. But Christopher Daniels has been nicknamed the King of the Indies. Let me just read off a couple of things that he's done. He has won a total of 20 championships between TNA, New Japan, and Ring of Honor alone. That's not including smaller independents. 3-time X Division, 6-time NWA Tag Team, 2-time TNA Tag Team, 1-time ROH TV, 4-time ROH Tag Team, former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. I can keep going on and on and on. There's more championships here. But for what he's done for younger talent, Elite Skipper, Low Key, Senshi, whatever you want to call them, they formed Triple X in TNA. Got both of them over, got them good and going. Elite Skipper just happened to fall off a little bit. You know, he had some personal stuff. He had to move on from professional wrestling. Low Key, now in Florida, training guys. I've met the man. He's nothing but the most humble, honest, brutally honest man I've ever met in my life. He will tell you you suck real fucking quick, but he will tell you what to do to get better, referring to Low Key. So, since '93, this will be his 30th year in professional wrestling. He has built up so many people, and now he's taken his knowledge of the business and putting into AEW's younger talent. And that's the reason he's pretty much my top 10. He's building the next generation of professional wrestling.
That's actually a really good pick. Again, not someone I even considered, although I have followed his career for a lot of years. Good pick, and definitely if you're talking about making an impact now and building for the future, I think that's a great pick in the top 10. For me, number 10, my one and only tag team, the Steiner Brothers. And the reason they're in my top 10, one, they're my favorite tag team of all time. And as you know, I'm a NWA, WCW guy, and they were the amazing tag team in WCW. They were legit. You knew that they were legit tough guys, but as big and strong as they were, the athleticism was off the charts. Strength and power off the charts. I mean, we're not talking about the Road Warriors kind of power, but that's a whole different level. But
Yeah.
As far as everyone else, just monster power. I mean, the Frankensteiner was unbelievable to me when I was a kid. the size of this man doing a backflip with the dude's head. That was top shit. And that's really all I had to say about it. It's definitely a Mark pick because they were my favorite tag team of all time, but I think they're a legitimate Mark pick.
I can agree with that. And let's not discredit Rick. Rick dude. Rick Steiner, I've been told by many people, is the strongest motherfucker they've ever worked. Stronger than Scotty, stronger than Brock Lesnar, stronger than Cena. Mm-hmm. He's just built differently. And let's take the athleticism of Scott. I mean, on top of the Frankensteiner that he can hit from a standing position or the top rope. Remember that moonsault fall away slam he hit standing, not off the ropes, but he hit it standing. The Steiner screwdriver, which he invented, that suplex Falcon Arrow power driver looking motherfucker. Still to this day, one of the deadliest looking maneuvers there is. And let's not forget, Rick, yeah, he didn't have that good of a singles career compared to his brother, but they still were successful separately as they were together. And now, WWE Hall of Famers.
And a lot of people don't know. That Rick had a pretty long career before Scott even came into professional wrestling.
That's right. That is right. Good pick. Good pick for your number 10. I thought they were going to be about 6 or 7 for you. So I'm really intrigued to see where we go with this countdown.
All right. What you got for 9?
Okay, so 9 is a tag team. I have a few teams on here, so it's not just mostly single guys. For my number 9, it's the Dudley Boys. Okay? So, former Ring of Honor, 6-man tag team champion with the Briscoes, Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, Brother Ray, whatever. Former 2-time TNA World Champion, take that for what it's worth, and a 10-time WWE Hardcore Champion. That's just a singles run. With Devon, he didn't have that good of a singles run. The only thing I could find is he had a 2-time TNA TV championship. In the time that TNA didn't mean shit, essentially. And I was a TNA mark from 2002 to when it changed to Impact in 2012. I watched TNA every week, like Raw, SmackDown, all that shit. But together as a tag team, I couldn't find anybody that gelled better together as far as a brother tag team. Spoiler alert, in case you marks didn't fucking know, they're not actually half brothers, it was storyline. Let me just go and get that shit out. But since 96, since they got put together in ECW, 8-time ECW tag team champion, 2-time IWGP tag team champion, former NWA, former TNA, former WWE and WCW tag team champions. Name me another tag team that is as decorated as that. Now, there could be arguments for FTR. There could. Because, former AAA, former IWGP, former NXT, Raw, SmackDown tag team champion. Arguably. But there's over 23 tag team championships run in their career. On top of that, they're a part of 2 different companies' Hall of Fames. TNA in 2014 and the WWE in 2018. So for my number 9 pick, as a team, because, yes, Bully had a pretty good singles run, Devon not so much, but as a team, the Dudley Boys take my number 9 spot. Your thoughts?
Well, they're certainly the most decorated tag team in history. And their heel work in ECW was second to none. Yeah, I like the pick. I don't know where you're going to go with a whole lot better tag teams. I'm excited to hear that, but I'm definitely not mad at Dudley Boys.
Well, again, when we say tag teams, they were a tag team at one point in time. So one of my picks later on is kind of cheating it to get them both in, but it's still as a team, even though they had better careers separately. So little Easter egg for later on. Not to mention, let's think about the fact that Bubba Ray and Devon both opened schools together and separately. You got the Team 3D Academy. Devon has his own school, and Bully has his own school up north.
Mm.
And they're training the next generation the right way.
Yeah.
The way they need to be trained to be great professional wrestlers. Not good, but great professional wrestlers. I'm actually a friend of one of their old students, Jesse Neal. If you remember him from TNA 2008, 2009.
Mm.
They trained him. And if it wasn't for some personal issues outside of professional wrestling, I promise you he would have been a world champion in TNA, if not AEW. He just had that drive and that feel. WWE not so much, but for TNA the way it is now and the way AEW is now, he would have been a world champion there.
And I mean, coming from Florida professional wrestling, they got one of the best schools in Florida, bar none. So,
Agreed.
No problem there. So for me, and WWE only fans, I'm sorry, people that followed only WWE over the years will be like, who?
WWE only fans. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's not what I meant.
That's too good.
Number 9, Dory Funk Jr. Now,
Really?
Now, you WWF, WWE fans, back in your library, there was a guy called Haas Funk, and that was Dory Funk Jr., and that was not the Dory Funk Jr. that the world knew. In case you didn't know, Dory Funk Jr. was the longest reigning NWA World Champion at 4 years, during the time where NWA was a global phenomenon. Dory Funk Jr. took NWA to Japan. He became a household name in Japan. The man's 80 years old, and he's still a god in Japan. And that's saying something when you're talking about American wrestlers. You know, he was selling out 60, 70 seat arenas in multiple cities as the NWA heavyweight champion. Complete poetry in motion. It's Terry Funk's brother, but he was definitely not the hardcore guy. He was poetry in motion. He brought technical wrestling. His feud with Briscoe is one of the greatest feuds of all time. So come at me, guys, if you want, but you're not going to talk me out of this pick. He's one of the greatest of all time.
Okay. I got one question for you, and you probably knew I was going to ask this since you pulled up Dory. Is he paying you under the table to get his name out on the podcast?
Definitely not.
Because I know where you're trained at. I know who trained you, and I know Dory was a part of that, a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm ribbing you. I respect Dory immensely inside the business. Outside the business, you know, me and him don't necessarily agree on a few things. But yes, for an old school pick, him. I mean, you can even argue Terry to be in that spot as well. But like you said, Terry was more of the hardcore, less technical style, whereas Dory was just perfection in that era. So I can't disagree. I can't disagree with what you said at all. I just wanted to make sure, you know, if you're getting paid under the table, you send me 20% of that. That way I can endorse it as well.
If that was the case, you'd be the first to know.
Speaking of endorsements, speaking of that, my man, who is sponsoring today's podcast?
Here's a word from our sponsor, Castell Vodka.
Vodka, Ebol, Castell. Indulge in the Red Revolution.
Thank you, Castell Vodka, for sponsoring the podcast. We are on to number 8, sir. What you got?
Okay, so you had your mark out at number 10, right, with the Steiners. This is my mark out point. Only because early on in my career, he influenced so much of the character I was trying to be, and you know where this is going, and how I try to take that direction. You still see it here and there when I cut a promo. My number 8 is Raven.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really for the accolades, such as his championships and what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's the stories that he told. It's the feuds that he had. It's the fact that he took such a shitty character in the late 80s and early 90s and was able to morph it into essentially an extension of himself in ECW when he became Raven. The feuds that he had with the fucking Tommy Dreamer, the blood feuds. Let's talk about the fact that, you know, it got personal with a Sandman and he brought his fucking kid into that shit. And he crucified the fucking Sandman on live television. You can't fucking do that shit, and he did not care.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the feuds later on that he had with fucking Jeff Jarrett and fucking TNA, where he finally won his one and only World Heavyweight Championship, the NWA World Title. Even though it was under the TNA banner, it is still recognized as an NWA Championship win.
Mm.
Let's talk about the fact of the fucking trilogy match that he had with fucking CM Punk. Just a one-on-one, then it turned into a fucking basically a Ravens Rules match, which is Extreme Rules for WWE purists. And then he had the fucking dog collar match, which was honestly, up until MJF CM Punk, was the best dog collar match I've ever watched. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Something's trying to come up. But, I mean, let's look at his accolades anyway, since I'm doing it for everybody else. 2-time ECW Heavyweight Champion. 4-time ECW Tag Team Championship. Former NWA World Champion. Former WCW Light Heavyweight Championship, which I did not know that. I did not know he won the Light Heavyweight Championship. Apparently he did that as Johnny Polo at his first run.
Okay.
Former WCW US Champion. I knew that one. And the former WCW Tag Team Championship with Perry Saturn.
Okay. Yep.
That was when he was in the door. Here's something I didn't know. Did you know Raven still holds a WWE record to this day?
What's that?
27-time hardcore champion.
What?
Yeah, I did not know that. I knew he won it a couple times, but it was back during that 24/7 era.
Right.
Bullshit. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth, but at the end of the day, Raven's name is still in the record books of WWE, regardless if they ever want to try to write him off fucking history or not. They can't. It's not a Chris Benoit situation. And as well, you know, he took his rightful place in the TNA Hall of Fame in 2022 when Tommy Dreamer inducted him and Tommy Dreamer ate a even flow on the stage. So, it's the fact of his character work, it's the fact of the feuds, it's the fact of how much I studied him is why he's at my number 8 spot more than his actual accolades and what he's done in the business. It's the fact that if I didn't watch ECW in 1997, I probably wouldn't be a pro wrestler today. And I know I give a lot of like appreciation and stuff like that to Undertaker, but that was later on. If it wasn't for the fact I turned on my fucking television at 11:30 at night, one night when I was fucking 7, and watched Raven beat the shit out of fucking Stevie Richards, I would not be a wrestling fan and I would not be a professional wrestler today. So for that reason, he is my number 8 pick.
And fun fact, when he crucified the Sandman, that's what made Kurt Angle not sign with them.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. Holy shit.
He was fucking mortified. He said, if you say my name in association with this shit, I'm suing you.
Yep.
That was crazy. Alright.
What's your number 8, my guy?
Number 8, Bruno Sammartino.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Bruno, 7-year WWF champion.
That's that third W in. I see how it is.
Yep. And the ultimate hero in professional wrestling. Back when heroes ruled the day. You back? You glitched for a second.
Yeah, I glitched. You're good. Keep going.
Back when heroes ruled the day, when he wrestled at Madison Square Garden, it was a fucking event. When it comes to the popularity boom in the 60s through 70s, that he's the rocket launch. I mean, he was larger than life, and the way he could do his thing in the ring, definitely no better back then. You know, questionable now. He is just the archetype of what professional wrestling was for a lot of years.
Okay. That took left field for me. I wasn't expecting to hear that name at all tonight. Because yes, you know, we're old school, but I don't necessarily go back and watch that much old school unless it's like Memphis shit. I love fucking Memphis. I don't watch a lot of the North stuff from that era. But the fact that, you know, it's like you said, he was essentially the blueprint of what a straight babyface would be in the future. You're thinking Hulk Hogan, you're thinking Bret Hart, you're thinking when Shawn had his shit under control, Shawn Michaels. Like, he was essentially, like you said, the architect of what a babyface should be. So yeah, that along with his longest reigning WWF championship run, what was it, 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
What was wasn't it like 10 years the combine of both title reigns?
You could be right.
I'll have to go back and look, but yeah, good pick, dude. That did hit left field for me, but yes, awesome.
Number 7, sir.
Number 7. Okay. Number 7 had me on the fence. This is one of those I told you earlier before we started recording that I was flipping back and forth because it started at number 4, then it went to number 10, then 5, and I took it off, and then I eventually settled at number 7 because no matter how I personally feel about his current work and how much creative freedom he has, he's left his impact on this business. So for my number 7 is the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, Mr. Y2J Chris Jericho. Without a doubt, he's left his mark not only on this business, but multiple businesses. Music business, author, professional wrestling. He's even done some acting. Motherfucker has his own damn cruise ship now. Watch out, we might be on there next year. But dude, former AEW World Champion, former ECW TV Champion, when he jumped in 2017 at IWGP, when he faced Kenny Omega at fucking Wrestle Kingdom, that was the beginning of the quote-unquote forbidden door being opened. That was the beginning of the blueprint of what AEW would be today. Honestly, if it was not for Chris Jericho, I don't think AEW would be where it is today. I don't even think it would really be a thing. If anything, it'd be like PWG, if anything.
Mm.
But the fact they had the star power of Chris Jericho to make it their first show, to be the first AEW World Champion, to put that load on his back and carry that company for essentially the first year and through COVID. He had to work arenas empty.
Right.
And we've worked shows where, you know, there was less than 30, 40 people there. I've worked shows when there was only 7 or 8 people there. It sucks, but you muster through it. He did it with nobody.
Right.
Camera crew, and that is it. But let's not forget, you know, we're not even talking about his WWE stuff. We're not talking about his WCW stuff, his Smoky Mountain stuff, his stuff down in Mexico, his stuff in Japan. The man is a literal legend to our generation. First ever undisputed WWE champion, beating who? The Rock and Austin in the same night. I don't think anybody else could have been put in that position and did as well as he did. You put Kurt Angle in that position, I think it would have failed. You put Taker in that position, it would have been okay. But Jericho just gave it that extra oomph of fuck you heat. kind of what MJF does now. It's just, and that's not including, his multiple releases with Fozzy. That's not including his multiple releases of biographies and other books. The man is a true example of somebody constantly reinventing himself for the better. And we've had this talk anytime we pull up AEW and we talk. I don't like what Jericho does now because of how much freedom he has. He has nobody to tell him no. But the fact that he has the talent to be able to do that, I have nothing but respect for it. So for that reason, and the fact that he's opened so many doors, and the fact that you have, essentially built AEW off your sweat and off your back. You started a brand new company for so many workers to be able to go and hone their craft. And don't have to go to one fucking company. You don't have to go to Japan. You don't have to go to Mexico or the UK. You can go right there to Jacksonville, Florida. Because of Chris Jericho, because of what he's been able to do. So for that, he is my number 7 pick.
I gotta give you a lot of respect for that. He's not in my top 10. And only because I had a few throwbacks, obviously, with Dory and Bruno. But everything you said is correct. I mean, when he went to Japan with the Painmaker gimmick, that was, that was cataclysmic. When he, what he did for AEW as the inaugural heavyweight champion. Right on the money. Can't be understood.
So, what's your number 7, my dude? I'm interested.
The Undertaker.
That far up on your list, you have Taker?
Yes.
Holy shit. Okay, we might have a little issue.
Look, any of these picks can be in anybody's top 5. I'm not saying anything. But you got to remember, it's a WCW guy. The WCW guy,
WCW, man.
through the Attitude Era, I was mostly a WCW guy, even though I kept up with WWE. And to me, without question, the greatest character of all time. The Undertaker, Dead Man gimmick, the actual Undertaker is the greatest, most iconic character figure in my mind. He went a long way into making dark Cordz. And I don't think his... I don't think his...
As well as Dravyn.
I don't think his importance can be overstated. If we're looking at all the rest of my picks, they all had multiple championship runs. Taker didn't need that, which is why he only wound up with 3 or 4.
7, my dude. He ended up with 7 world titles.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Well,
I know that man's career like the back of my hand. Trust me.
No, I know you do. And being at number 7 on this list is not at all a diss. I mean, I can't... His importance to me and my character, that's... I mean, I can't defend that placement any further than that.
That's interesting. If you have Taker there, and if you had to put Kane... Let's say we did a top 20. If you had to put Kane there in that list, and he's at number 7, where would you put Kane? Because, Taker was a very important part of your character and my character. It was also the same thing with Kane. But Kane branched off and did his own shit. Like, he became his own entity, his own monster. So
I would put him somewhere between 11 and 15, probably.
Okay, that's a good spot. I can respect that. I just had that question. I just had to make sure, I was able to give that a go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was very important too, but in my opinion, there certainly wouldn't be a Kane if there wasn't an Undertaker.
Very true. Very true. Thank you, old booger red.
All right. Number 6.
Oh, for number 6. Well, before we get to number 6, we know y'all seen the merchandise. We know you want the merchandise. You see it right there. Bad guys do heel shit. Go to teespring.com/heel shit podcast and get all of the t-shirts, hats, stickers. Blue shirt. We got some hoodies coming, and we got some beanies coming as well. So make sure you hit on that. teespring.com/heel shit podcast.
And there'll be a link to it in the description of the YouTube video and in the podcast notes.
All right. So, number 6. Remember when I told you that, I put a couple tag teams on here, but this is kind of me cheating. But they're as a tag team, they're just as important as single. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the Outsiders. You're a WCW guy. You can't disagree with this.
Probably the most important moment in the Attitude Era.
The most important moment, in my opinion, in WCW history. More important than Sting coming from the rafters. More important than fucking Hulk Hogan signing. More important than fucking Lex Luger showing up on the first Nitro. When Scott Hall came down from that fucking crowd in all denim, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. That felt real.
Yeah, man.
And that's something professional wrestling up until that point did not have, but sorely needed.
That angle, oh my god, like I thought it was a real invasion. I thought Razor Ramon was showing up. And at first I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no way he's here, because that doesn't happen. You don't do that shit.
You saw him on Raw. You literally just saw him on Raw last fucking week. And then 3 weeks later, Big Sexy comes out. Not knowing what a fucking adjective or a pronoun is. He just figured adjective sounded better on fucking television. But it felt fucking real. That whole fucking angle up to Bash of the Beach 96 was fucking real to me.
Dude.
And that's not including, the first fucking ladder match that fucking Shawn and Scott had at WrestleMania 10. That's not including Kevin Nash's first run as the WWF champion in fucking 94. That's not including the fucking feud between Nash and Michaels in 95. Before WCW, they had already essentially, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame-like career. Go back and watch some of their shit. Go back and watch the ladder match. Go back and watch Kevin Nash or Diesel versus fucking Shawn Michaels at In Your House. Go back and watch Nash and Taker at WrestleMania. That, in my opinion, is top 5 undefeated streak matches. And then you get to WCW. Then you see more of who they really are while still being in character. And then that night at Bash at the Beach 96 when the third man showed up. Now, I was 6 years old at that time, so I couldn't watch the pay-per-view because, as a little boy, I had to get my sleep because I had to go to school next day. But when I turned on fucking Nitro that damn night, and I saw the red and yellow was black and white, my little 6-year-old heart broke. That was cataclysmic to me. I had therapy issues because of that. Essentially. Not really, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
I mean, let's also, I found this out. When do you think Scott and Kevin first tagged up?
I know it's going to be way earlier than this, but I didn't see them tag up before Wait, did I see a picture of them in AWA?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, it's WCW.
Oh, it's
You may have
WCW.
seen it. They didn't tag in AWA.
Okay.
1991.
Vinny
The
Vega and the Dumb and Diamond Stud.
Diamond Stud and Oz.
Oz.
They did one tag team match, and that's where they first met, and that's where they just got that bond. But I mean, 6-time WCW tag team champions, 1-time TNA tag team champions. Both of them 2-time WWE Hall of Famers. Scott in 2014 as Razor Ramon, which is the dumbest fucking thing I ever saw. That's the first time I ever saw a gimmick outside of a person get inducted to the Hall of Fame. And then 2020 for the NWO. And then 2015 for Kevin Nash as his singles. So the impact they put on the business, the way they shook it to its very core, and let's not forget, if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be guaranteed contracts today.
Absolutely.
They made guaranteed money possible for talent of WCW, and later on WWE when it was able to be afforded. But they started the Monday Night Wars. I don't give a fuck what Vince McMahon says, JR says. I don't give a fuck what Uncle Dave says. When Scott Hall came through that crowd that night, that started the Monday Night Wars. That shot off a period of history that can never be replicated. And it's thanks to Scott Hall, God rest his fucking soul, I miss him so much, and Kevin Nash taking that chance on themselves, making that move, opening the original Forbidden Door, and just made history. And yeah, you know, NWO eventually got watered down and it turned into the Wolf Pack and then NWO 2000 and shit like that. But that original, I'll even put X-Pac in there. The original 4 members of the NWO shook professional wrestling, if not the world of entertainment, to its very core. So for that reason, the Outsiders are my number 6 pick.
Great fucking pick. Great fucking pick. I remember, you know, you could say what you want about ECW crowds, but anytime the Outsiders were in the ring, shit was flying at them from the crowd into the ring. That people legitimately thought the big bad North was invading WCW. Like,
Yep.
and
like, hey, look, to this day, I still get goosebumps thinking about that angle. Shit, dude.
So fucking amazing. Yeah, bravo on that pick, man. Bravo.
Try to beat that number 6 pick, my dude. I want to hear it.
I can only beat that by the number of championships. My number 6 pick is Ric Flair.
Woo!
Ric Flair, the man. The greatest shit talker. Maybe not the best promo ever, but definitely the best shit talker. The best, I'm better than you. I don't give a fuck what MJF says. When Ric Flair spoke, you knew he was better than you, without question. He did.
If it wasn't for fucking Ric Flair, MJF's character would not exist today.
Nope, not a bit. MJF is just Ric Flair without blonde hair. I mean, I didn't mean to rhyme that, but fuck it, I'm going with it.
Oh man, watch it. Death Row's gonna be at your fucking door trying to get a record deal.
Dude, Ric Flair was the limousine riding, jet flying. That man made one of the lowest paying professions look like $1 million. Alright?
All out of his pocket.
Because you
The
know,
Rolexes, the $10,000 suits, the $5,000 shoes, the $150 haircut, the big, damn, I can't grab it, but the big gold. He introduced the most iconic championship in the world. The big gold belt. Fuck the Triple B. Fuck the Big Eagle. Fuck the Winged Eagle. Fuck the Spinner. The big gold belt is the most iconic championship in the world.
absolutely.
And he had the balls to say, fuck you, NWA, took his big gold belt, and went to fucking Vinnie Mac, and then put it on fucking television. Come the fuck on. Who has balls like that? Dude. Okay. I'll admit, Ric Flair is not in my top 10. He isn't. He's my honorable mention, but he's not in my top 10. But the way you just talk that son of a bitch up, like past the plane ride from hell, past all the negativity that he's ever had in the world, and you know he's gone through some low shit. The man, and I'll go ahead and say it, the man himself is on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling.
100%.
I mean, we're going to have that episode coming up soon. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, he is on my Mount Rushmore. He might not be in my top 10 for other reasons, biased reasons, but unbiased. Ric Flair is up there. I mean, think about the feuds he had with fucking Harley Race. Think of those blood feuds.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the fucking blood feuds with fucking Jerry Lawler.
Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, fucking... Dude, I didn't even think about Dusty for this.
Yeah.
Fuck!
I mean, I think Ric Flair Dusty Rhodes feud is one of the most iconic feuds in professional wrestling. I mean,
Yep.
both of those guys with towhead blonde hair, streaked in red blood, like that is a picture that will live in infamy.
That, yes. My God.
And you want to talk about a plane ride from hell. For you younger cats who don't know, he was in a real plane ride from hell. Early in his career, he was in a plane crash, broke his fucking back, and came back to be one of the greatest of all time.
Well, fuck that. Fuck that. Unbiased, the greatest professional wrestler of all time. I will even go. I'll go that far. Unbiasedly, the greatest professional wrestler. Biasedly, obviously, you won't be on my top 10, but unbiased, Mount Rushmore. God damn, dude. Like, we could have a whole episode on fucking Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not the greatest human being, not the greatest with money.
Oh no,
never had any. You know,
he's a fucking prick. But still, like for what he did to this business,
mm-hmm.
the great.
Absolutely.
Dang.
All right.
Fuck for him.
All right, the top 5. Who's your number 5?
Well, fuck. Now I want to say Dusty. Not even, legit, like Dusty was just like such a big influence. He's not my number 5, but he was just such a big influence on how I wanted to build a character up. Like when I have to do comedy shit. But
I wined and dined with kings and queens, and I dined with the
Mally's eating on pork and beans.
That's right.
High time, baby. I can't do you, Brian Cage. You just have no talent. I'm done. You were the reason I went to the grave, baby. You fucking suck.
number 5, and I bet it's not Brian Cage.
We all know where he is on your list. Number 5. I chose this guy because of his longevity of the business. He is of the modern era, but when you see where he came from, of his humble beginnings, and how humble he still is, and what he's doing for this business to this day. I mean, the motherfucker's on WrestleMania. If that doesn't fucking give it away. He's still building up fucking new talent to this day. He's still giving to this business to this day. My number 5 pick. The Doctor of Thugonomics. John Cena, as Santino Marella would say one time.
John Cena.
What do you John motherfucking Cena. 13-time WWE champion, 3-time former world champion, 5-time United States champion, 2-time Royal Rumble winner. The man was the most hated babyface of the last 25 years. Think of 2006 to 2009. He was more hated than fucking Roman Reigns in that suffering succotash babyface era. Like, go back if you want like modern day bloodthirsty crowd. ECW One Night Stand 2006, John Cena RVD. That motherfucker went into a war zone.
Took it like a man.
Dude, I went back and watched that last week actually while you were gone because goddamn, you're never allowed to leave me again this long. But the motherfucker was in hostile territory. Those motherfuckers legit were gonna fucking riot and tear that building down if John won that night. Dude, the man overcame so much adversity that night. Moving on. Let's think of the feuds he had. Fucking early on. Fucking Brock Lesnar in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
They were both fucking young. They were both fucking hungry. Beat the fuck out of each other. Motherfucking, to this day, one of my favorite matches. Vengeance 2002. John Cena versus The Undertaker. That was a classic storytelling match of babyface getting a shine, heel cutting off, heel getting heat, babyface cut off, babyface wins.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever need to watch a basic story match, go back and watch Vengeance 2002, John Cena, Undertaker. Let's think of the fucking United States title. His first championship, he won it where? Madison Square Garden, WrestleMania 20.
Big Show.
He immortalized himself in the greatest building WWE ever has at the biggest show WWE had up to that point, WrestleMania 20. He beat the Big Show for it. And then he went on to have one hell of a title run. The company trusted him so much that they were allowing him to redesign the United States Championship into that god-awful spinner belt.
Hey, that spinner belt was a lot better than the WWE Championship spinner belt.
I don't like either one.
No, but
You'll never see me buy either one. But then, they gave him the reins the next year.
Mm-hmm.
He won the number one contenders match at No Way Out, and then went on and beat the longest reigning WWE champion of SmackDown history, JBL, where? Fucking WrestleMania. And from there, he just had a fucking rocket strapped to him and went to the fucking moon. Moved him from SmackDown to Raw at the fucking draft lottery. Made him the number one guy on fucking Raw. Beating guys like fucking Chris Jericho. Beating guys like fucking Kurt Angle. Fucking Triple H. A young Edge. Randy Orton. He did all of that. And he was only in the business for 6 years. 7 years, excuse me. I forgot about his rookie year. You don't see that very often. You don't see a young, hungry guy that's still fucking humble, that doesn't have a fucking ego the size of fucking Kansas. Given that opportunity, he took that and he fucking ran. Think of the main events he had. Let me try to get this in order. JBL at WrestleMania 21. Triple H at WrestleMania 22. Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 23. Triple Threat. Triple H, Randy Orton at 24. 25, I believe, was Edge and Big Show, where he picked up both them motherfuckers at the same time for an FU. Fucking AA, it's a goddamn FU on this fucking show. 26, who did he fucking wrestle in 26? I don't think he was on 26. I think he was out with injury. But 27 set up what? The Rock and John Cena. A year-long build to the following WrestleMania. Now, granted, Taker had the undefeated streak at WrestleMania. But in my opinion, the moniker Mr. WrestleMania should not be Shawn Michaels. It should be John Cena's. John Cena made history. And he carried that company on his back from fucking 2005 to when he decided, he wasn't forced, he decided to step down in 2017 going into 2018 to let younger talent be able to move ahead and become what they are today. Honestly, if it wasn't for people like John Cena, we would not have Roman Reigns. We would not have Seth Rollins. We would not have the monster version of Brock Lesnar. Without John Cena giving them that push, giving them that rub, we wouldn't have the roster that we would have now. We wouldn't have the top guys that we have now. So for that reason, for what he did, for how much he gave back, to this fucking day, dude, he showed up on Raw and fucking just destroyed Austin Theory. We talked about that last week on the Wrestling of the Week. But, you know, he's still there. He's still building talent. He's still encouraging talent. He's still doing what he can to make WWE a better place. And for that reason, he is my number 5 pick.
Well, sir, before I give my opinion, I will tell you my number 5 pick is John Cena.
Motherfucker! I knew we were going to get one.
Unquestionably, in my mind, the best mic skills in history.
God almighty.
Dude, the way he comes back from hiatus and he just murdered Austin Theory. Like, he showed the world that this little kid is not ready for fucking big time. He's going to win the match at Mania. Austin Theory is going to win the match at Mania. But he showed the world that even though that's the case, Theory is not ready.
Yep.
16-time heavyweight champion, tied with Ric Flair. I hope, even though I know it's going to be unrealistic, I hope they give him the 17th. I think he was the most important person for the longest period of time in WWE's history.
Yep.
Now, you're going to, Austin and Rock and those guys, and they are higher on my list, but they only ran the industry for maybe 2 years each. They did not have lengthy runs at the top of the business.
Right.
John Cena ran the show for 10 fucking years. Without question, he was the head of the company. He was the face of the business. He had merch sales no one's ever had before. He's had ticket sales no one's ever had before. And you want to talk about an organic babyface turn. That build into that match with the Big Show for the U.S. title, when in the middle of that match, the crowd turned and Cena owned the crowd.
Yep.
And when he finally hoisted Big Show up on his shoulders, and he was looking around like, oh my God, they're fucking loving me. Like, I can't believe that, and he hit that AA, and it was,
whoa, what did you call it?
I'm sorry, the FU.
Thank you.
But the way the crowd popped when Cena used the chain to knock out Big Show, how they popped for a heel move like that.
Yep.
From that point forward, Cena owned wrestling. And when he came back from that torn pec 6 months before he was supposed to in that Royal Rumble match,
which he won that Rumble.
He won that Rumble. The crazy moment, several Royal Rumbles before that with Batista, where they both hit the ground at the same time, and Vince came out and blew his shit up. He just created moments, and
the cyborg. I mean, let's think about, he broke his fucking neck with Batista in 2008 at SummerSlam. The motherfucker was back on television 5 months later. He was supposed to be out over a fucking year, and he fully rehabbed in 5 fucking months.
Nobody
Who does that shit?
Nobody works as hard as John Cena. I mean,
nobody.
He's what, approaching 50 now,
He's like 46, 47, I believe.
Right. So, and he may not be as thick and as physically muscular as he was, but he still looks like a fucking machine. All right.
And it's fucking natural.
Yeah. And his career path from being a bodybuilder in a town where bodybuilding never existed, to having to overcoming his stage fright. His coach used to make him stand in the middle of a roundabout and do his poses for his bodybuilding competitions to get over that fucking stage fright. A little 245 pound man as the center for his college football team.
Unheard of.
Unheard of. He's an absolute machine, and in my opinion, the only guys who hated him through his career were dudes whose girlfriend would fuck John Cena in an instant.
Not gonna lie, if I had female organs, I'd fuck John Cena. Not gonna lie.
I'd try. I mean, I'd be an ugly fucking woman, but
They make paper bags, my dude. Anyway, number 5, all around John Cena. That's going to show you. If he's number 5, and we just talked him up this much, our top 4 is going to be fucking insane on both accounts.
Dude, I hyped myself up talking about Ric Flair and John Cena. Like, I didn't think I was going to defend them like this, but to me, they're number 1 and 2 now.
Right? No, we can't change it now. Number 1 and 2 still number 1 and 2, man.
Absolutely.
Number 5.
Number 4, what you got?
Oh, dude, I got goosebumps thinking from the John Cena thing, man. Like, damn. Oh, give me a second. Whew. Word life. Number 4. Word life. Number 4 is somebody that you've already given concern about being on a top 10. It's somebody that you don't see on a top 10. I'm hoping that I can at least validate my reasoning. It's the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Okay.
Hear me out before you come through that fucking screen and I'll punch you dead in the face.
Say what?
You heard me. You come through that screen, I will punch you in the fucking face.
I would expect you to.
Where'd you go?
Dude, hold on. My mic shit got trapped under my wheel.
Well, while you're looking for your wheel and your microphone, let me just go down a little thing. Former 2-time IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Former 3-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Mind you, he was like 26 when he won his first NWA title. In the modern era, that is unheard of. Former 4-time NWA Tag Team Championship. One with Gary Lynn, which we've both discussed and both agree is one of the best trainers in the business. One with Abyss, which outside of WWE was like the best fucking monster character. And 2 times with my number 10 pick, the fallen Christopher Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention 2-time TNA World Champion, former 6-time X Division Champion. He made an entire division on his back, similar to how Chris Jericho did AEW in the early days of NWA TNA. Excuse me. And I can go on and on and on for his championship thing. But what gets me with him is the fact that he built a company essentially from the ground up on his back off his name. If it wasn't for AJ Styles, we would not have Impact Wrestling today. We would not have another company for workers to go and hone their craft. And you know, AEW has the 4 pillars of AEW being Jungle Boy, Darby, MJF, and fucking Sammy. I mean, TNA had that too. They had AJ Styles. They had Ron Kelly. They had fucking Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels. Without those four, TNA would not exist. So, if you kind of look at it, TNA is kind of the blueprint of how AEW kind of got built with homegrown guys. But the fact that he gave so much commitment to that company, he believed in it so fucking much that he turned down WWE contracts. He turned down Japan contracts. He did not work independents. He was solely a TNA guy because he believed so much in that brand. You don't find that kind of commitment out of just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He literally, and you know, for all the stuff that he created, the Spiral Tap, he made a Styles Clash famous, that fucking moonsault into reverse DDT, phenomenal. But it's the fact that he saw so much commitment into putting himself into TNA to the point that he said fuck you to multi-million-dollar contracts. He built that fucking place for 11 years, reinvented himself into essentially what the AJ Styles we have today is. And yeah, you know, he went to New Japan and, you know, kind of made it darker and shit like that before coming over to WWE. But the fact that he was able to, for so long, like, I don't even think Michaels could have done this, for so long be the face of a new company. And no matter what they did, he was always the forefront. Then you get it, and you know, it was a money situation with him and Dixie, and you know, wanted to take a cut. He said, fuck it, let me try my independent. The motherfucker went to New Japan on night one and won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He fucking redesigned the Bullet Club and made it the most profitable t-shirt in 2014 to 2016. He outsold John Cena merchandise worldwide.
Wow.
Dude, Bullet Club. I still got the same cup. I bought this cup because of him. Okay? So he did that. Then, you know, he had that fucking killer match with Shinsuke Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom. If you think that fucking match at WrestleMania 33, I believe, with him and Shinsuke for WWE title was good, go back and watch Wrestle Kingdom. Night and fucking day. That match was, as JR say, a barn burner. Fucking phenomenal, no pun intended. Phenomenal match. Then, you know, WWE finally called. They finally want to give him the chance that he deserved. You know, his time with New Japan was coming up, and he was starting to feel a little stale there. So he fucking left. He left the freedom of Ring of Honor. He left the freedom of New Japan, and he took a chance on himself. Debuted number 3 at Royal Rumble 2016.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest pop of the fucking year, bar none, when the words "I am phenomenal" showed up on that screen. And he was more worried about fans not knowing him. Motherfucker, you're in Florida. Everybody knows who the fuck you are.
True.
And inside a year, wins his first WWE championship. Off a new signing. Wins the WWE championship.
Mm-hmm.
Then has phenomenal feuds, again, with our number 5 pick, John Cena. That SummerSlam match was fucking phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking the shit that he had with John Moxley, Dean Ambrose, whatever you want to call him. The matches he had with Mox, the stories that he had with fucking No Chin James Ellsworth, fucking phenomenal. Then they fucking revisited the Shinsuke thing and had that match at WrestleMania and turned Shinsuke heel, fucking phenomenal. Now there was a couple of fucking low points with him where they didn't really have anything for him, almost, but he still made the best of what he had, and that's something he's always done. He's took chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad. And no matter what, he's always been entertaining. No matter what, he's been able to, in my mind, open doors, like Chris Jericho, be able to open doors for younger guys to be able to come in and hone their craft, not at WWE, but at another company to rival WWE at the time, which, you know, TNA 2005, 2006 was like fucking hot as hell. Nobody can deny that. Because of the fucking 4 pillars. Think of that fucking 3-way that fucking Daniels, Joe, and AJ had. Dude, I still have it saved on a fucking DVD and I watch it. There's just one match on that DVD. I fucking watch it. But for that reason, and I gotta say, I'm a little biased. I am a TNA guy. I always have been. I always will be. because I got some family connections in there as well. Hence Christopher Daniels, but also AJ Styles. And, I've met AJ Styles, and he's the most humble motherfucker I've ever met. He will sit there and talk your fucking ear off if you fucking let him. He understands that, like Cena, if it wasn't for us, the fans, us, the new blood, us, grinding on the independents, he would not have a reason to be on TV every week. He would not have a reason to do what he does. He would not have the reason to provide for his family. So for that reason, that is why he is my number 4.
You make a compelling argument, but
as I said, I'm not trying to persuade you into your mind, but I just want to try to validate my reason.
No, and I think you did that. And the reason why he's not on my list is because number 4 on my list is the reason AJ Styles can be AJ Styles. My number 4 pick is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Ooh, interesting.
My number 4 pick is the reason guys like AJ Styles can be successful in this world of giants. He was undoubtedly the biggest name in wrestling in the early to mid 90s.
Yep. Not a doubt.
Obviously, he had plenty of personal demons. Blah blah blah. Horrible back injury, changed his life. Maybe not his athletic life, but certainly his personal life for the better. Made
something like that could be seen as a blessing in disguise.
Right. Made an amazing comeback. Wins the heavyweight championship from who was his best friend up until 6 months earlier in Triple H. Actually, no, he didn't win the belt. He won it at the Elimination Chamber, which was after his comeback match against Triple H.
But he pinned Triple H for the belt.
That's true. It just, one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. Had some of the most iconic character work in DX. He was even great in the second run of DX, where anytime anything too risque happened, he would say, "There's Mr. Fuji," and run off the screen, so he wasn't a part of...
the 2006 rerun, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That, in my opinion, was the better version of DX.
When it was just the two of them.
Yes.
Yep. His whole, the whole bit backstage where, "I can be controversial? What's your name?" "Stan!" "Pah! I just kicked Stan!"
Well, spoiler alert, became Sean Spears.
Indeed it did. But, and then when he quit and Triple H found him flipping burgers at some seedy fast food joint. Great character work.
Just watched that promo the other day.
Dude, great character work. And many people in the know say that he's the greatest in-ring performer they've ever seen. Kurt Angle says he's the greatest in-ring performer he's ever seen.
I say the same.
It's, his place in history can't be denied. And that's my pick for number 4.
Number 4. Honestly, I thought that would be a little lower. I thought Shawn would be number 2 for you. Since you told me off air, number 1 is something I would never fucking guess.
Correct.
I figured Shawn would have been number 2.
I was a huge fan of his when he was at... Dude, we're talking about things that just didn't happen. Him kicking Marty Jannetty in the barber shop.
Yep.
That shit doesn't happen. You know, like that was a moment that'll stand the test of time.
Dude, they
And
recreated it not even 2 months ago in NXT when they broke up Toxic Attraction. So yeah, I can never be fucking denied.
yeah. So there you go.
Dang, that's a good choice. Good choice.
Numero tres.
Number tres. Well, you already covered them. There, you covered quite a bit. I'm going to try to cover a little bit more. Number 3 is a man that I respect more than anybody else in the business. It is a man who, for 30 plus years, gave his heart and his soul to one company. It is the dead man, the American badass, Big Evil, The Undertaker. What can you, this is kind of difficult. What can you say about the man? Not the character. What can you say about Mark Calloway, the fucking man, who since November of 1990 gave literal blood, sweat, tears, broken bones, everything to WWE. From that first fucking gong to essentially the last gong, he gave everything he had to WWE. 21-0 before he finally lost. A record that will never be duplicated. A record that will never be replicated. Still, in my opinion, there should only have been one loss, and it wasn't the first loss. It should have been the second loss. Beside the point. Let's look at his championship accomplishments. 7-time world champion. And he was that kind of character that, like you said, did not need a belt. He himself was a championship, so to speak. Especially once, he got like 9-0, 10-0. And they made the streak like a really big deal. Especially when it was like, number 1 contenders match to see who's going to face The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Kind of shit. Former 6-time tag team champion. With Kane, Austin, Big Show, Dwayne. Motherfucker. 2007 Royal Rumble winner. Like, there's not anything in this business that he hasn't fucking done. There's not anything in this business that he wasn't able to give back to. Let's think about it. The man broke his fucking face in 95 and went out the next week and worked with that god-awful Phantom of the Opera mask, which I'm still convinced to this day fucking influenced the 2002 Kane mask. So the most horrible mask influenced the most badass mask, in my opinion. Which, if I could get away with it, I'd fucking wear it to shows. But let's think about it. Hell in a Cell. They reinvented the fucking cage match, and he had back-to-back the 2 most iconic Hell in a Cells. Shawn Michaels, and then a year later with Mick Foley. The fucking feuds with fucking Shawn, leading up to that shit, and then going past it. I mean, all due respect, Shawn did break his back in that casket match in 98 against The Undertaker. Mick Foley, the first fucking Boiler Room Brawl was with The Undertaker. He fucking innovated so many matches. Buried Alive, casket matches. A fucking biker chain on a fucking pole match. Thank you, Vinny Roop. Last Ride match. He's fucking innovated so much.
That amazing cinematic graveyard match with AJ Styles.
Oh, I wasn't even there yet. I wasn't even there. I was getting to, but I wasn't there. But you're right. That alone, and I shitted on that so much going up to it when I found it was a cinematic match. It turned out to be the best part of the whole show. live or otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
because of all the ad-libbing that they left in it. Like when he fucking cut his arm. And like just out of fucking reactions. Son of a bitch. Like that popped me. Like I started fucking laughing my ass off. Like, and you can't find that unless you find it on fucking YouTube. You can't find it on fucking WWE Network Peacock. You can't find it on anything like that. You got to find it on YouTube if you are able to. But the man has so much fucking talent. The man influenced so many characters. Dark Cordz, Dravyn Grimes when he's in his fucking nightmare persona. At some point, probably, our confidants, Rip and Kai. They're probably somewhat influenced into it. Like, he's influenced so many people, but he's been able to give so much of himself as a person. He's gone through 3 fucking marriages because of this business. 2 of them failed. One of them, luckily, thank God, he got with fucking Michelle, and it kind of straightened him out. So, I mean, you talked him up as a character. I'm talking him up as a fucking person. The man gave so much to this business, built up so many people, had so many great feuds. At the end of the day, it's his loyalty to the brand. It is his commitment to keeping the Undertaker character kayfabe. All the way up to the last Survivor Series that he was a part of as the Dead Man. And he's gone on record in saying that version of the Undertaker will never be seen again because he's pulled back the curtain. Because of the fact that, you see more Mark Calloway now. That if you see the Undertaker, the Dead Man version, it'll just feel cheesy. It'll feel like a knockoff. It'll feel shallow. So if you ever see the Undertaker, he's made it clear you will see more of a Mark Calloway American Badass version. He's still committed to the Undertaker character, but because he was able to evolve it, he doesn't have to be the Dead Man. He can be Big Evil. He can be Mark Calloway. He can be Booger Red. He could be fucking Texas Tornado if he wants to. Shout out to old WCW shit.
Mean Mark Calloway.
With the heart punch. I mean, it's just the fact that even to this day, what is it? 36 years later since he first debuted against fucking Brody, that he still tries to keep the mystique of his character alive, even though he knows that he can't to the point that he wants to. So for that reason, the man, Mark Calloway, the character, The Undertaker, is my number 3 pick.
I'm kind of shocked. I mean, I would not have batted an eye if he was your number 1. I know how instrumental he was for you. Me to not nearly the same degree, but still, an influence. I'm not mad at your pick. I'm not mad at how high it is. In fact, I would have expected it to be higher. So, the loyalty issue is a big deal, and he's the last true throwback. He was the last to take kayfabe seriously. I mean, you never saw Undertaker out in the wild. You never saw him in an airport. You never saw him anywhere. I don't know how he fucking managed that.
Even when you did see him in the airport, especially his early days, he was in all black. He still had his makeup on. Like, he wasn't in gimmick, but he had like a fucking black leather coat on, black pants, fucking black sunglasses with his fucking Taker makeup on. He was that committed to the character. You don't get that anymore. Not even us two. And we're pretty committed to being in character when we're out. But I mean,
and that hilarious story about Vince calling him and him immediately thinking he was going to be the gobbledygooker.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Like, he said he went to Vince's house for the first time, and he said, Vince said, "Do you have any other talents?" And he goes, before even thinking about it, he says, well, I can sing in the shower. He was like, immediately in my head, I knew I was going to debut as the singing in the shower guy. You know?
And then fucking 3 days later, hello, is this the Undertaker?
Damn
I'm
right.
whoever you wanted to be.
Yes, it is, Mr. McMahon. Yes, it is.
Moving on.
Good shit.
What's your number 3, my dude?
My number 3 is where we're gonna disagree a little bit. My number 3 is The Rock.
I can't be mad at that. I really can't.
I think that he was Mr. Catchphrase. There have been some cool catchphrases in the past. Billy Graham was a great catchphrase guy.
Yep.
Ric Flair, obviously, we've already talked about. But everything that came out of The Rock's mouth, you remember. I mean, he had so many catchphrases. He wasn't just Austin 316 said I can whoop your ass. No, it was, if you smell what The Rock is cooking, jabroni, SmackDown Hotel. They named a fucking show after the guy.
Yeah.
He made up a word, and they made the fucking show over it.
Dude, they put a fucking word in Webster's dictionary because of him.
Yeah.
So, again, I can't be mad. I can't really disagree. I mean, he's not on my top 10. He's not even in my top 20, personally, because of his biasness. But I can't really disagree with your pick. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, just bring it. It doesn't matter what you say if you smell what The Rock is cooking. Jabroni beating, high eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, it is essentially, I mean, especially that last piece, he kind of took what Ric Flair made and made it better. Mm-hmm. Which is what we all try to do.
Sure.
I mean, at this point in professional wrestling, you really can't invent nothing new. You just reinvent something.
Right.
And he was able to do that. And tell me, since the 90s, who's been able to get over a fucking elbow drop?
Jesus Christ. And use it as a finisher.
Not only use it as a finish, but have so many variations going into a basic elbow drop.
Yep. No, I mean,
I understood the people's elbow more than I understood the worm. It's essentially the same contact, but it just felt, because of who did it and what he put behind it, it just made more sense for the people's elbow to be the most powerful fucking maneuver of 2000 and 2001.
Yeah, it was absurd that he could get. I mean, and every one of his returns through the early and mid 2000s was a huge deal.
Every fucking return.
I mean, that shit with Evolution and Mick Foley, where he was like, I'm going to go call my buddy. Well, never mind, I'll just bring him out here. And Rock comes busting down the hall.
Mick Foley was coming back to Raw. I didn't say he was coming back to Raw alone.
That's right.
And that motherfucker made a fucking beeline. Like, you couldn't even really tell who it was until you saw the back of his shirt. And then he fucking, like, hit fucking Rick twice. And then, like, self-strutted in fucking moonwalk fucking thing. And bang!
It's like, blah, blah, blah.
Like, one thing you can never say about The Rock, one thing you can never say about Dwayne is he was not ever entertaining.
Yeah.
Even when he got called out on his shit, John Cena, he still made it somewhat entertaining. And you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about when he got called out in 2011 with the fucking bullet points.
Oh, yeah.
But even that 2011 return, when he was the first host of WrestleMania, and nobody knew who it was. Go back and watch the fucking return. That pop, I dare say, rivals fucking John Cena in Boston. It rivals CM Punk in Chicago. It rivals Taker in Houston. It rivals fucking Stone Cold anywhere. So, I mean, I can't be mad. I can't disagree with that.
The closest possible verbal combatant to John Cena. By far, those two are leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else for as far as the mic skills, in my opinion.
Dude, and their camaraderie when they actually work together. I mean, they had 3 matches together. They had that tag team match against Miz and R-Truth at Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
They had 28 and 29 when they worked each other. And, you know, The Rock was injured at going like 10 minutes into the 29 match. And they still made it look flawless.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like I said, I can't be upset or disappointed.
All right. Well, that's all I got for The Rock. Number 2, my friend.
Number 2. It's funny that you put The Rock at number 3. Because my number 2 pick is, in my opinion, his biggest rival that he ever had. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Right? I mean, we just celebrated 316 Day. Legitimately, the man is the reason I have a finish. Dead to Rights is essentially just a ripoff of the Stone Cold Stunner. It's the easiest fucking thing in the world to do. But let's look at his early career, back when he had hair. Damn it. Former 2-time WCW television champion. Former 2-time US champion. Former tag team champion with Brian Pillman in WCW and the NWA.
Mm-hmm.
When they were the Hollywood Blondes. The Dangerous Alliance that fucking pushed him to essentially, in my opinion, start molding the Stone Cold character, where it gave him that opportunity to be able to talk a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he had that awful injury in WCW, and he eventually got fired over the phone at Eric Bischoff. And then the ECW shit. Just the promos at ECW. That's where you saw a star being formed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it took a little bit of time once he got to WWE and he had to get over that $1 million bullshit. Like, the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. But, you know, once he was getting traction, once he was able to get a little bit of creative freedom, once he was able to, you know, get the wheels turning and make it feel a little more natural, fucking King of the Ring 96 showed up. The most infamous promo of the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your ass." And guess what? Austin 316, still to this day, the biggest seller on WWEshop.com. To this day, almost 30 years later, the man's an icon. And I want you to think about this. 96 to 2003 was Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's it. He didn't have that long of a run. Like Dwayne. I mean, Dwayne had a little shorter run. His was like 98 to 2002. He only had like a 4-year fucking run as The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
But he built that up. Austin had a little bit more. He had injuries come up. You know, the whole the neck thing with Owen and the pile driver, his knees getting blown out, shit like that. But he made the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
He made it into his character. Like, to the point, like, if you go back and watch old Austin stuff, at least with my kids, they ask where his knee braces are.
Mm.
You just automatically assume, like, that's a part of his character. He did. He made that a part of his fucking gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who else rocked Daisy Dukes? This guy. But I'm home. Don't judge me. But, I mean, the man took every negative that happened in his career and turned it into a positive. He headlined one of the biggest WrestleMania 14, against Shawn Michaels, and you never knew Shawn had a broken back at that point. They wrestled the hell out of each other. With who else than the most dangerous man in the world, Mike Tyson, being involved in that. And that build up with fucking Tyson and Austin from January to Mania. You thought them two were going to rip each other's fucking heads off. That felt real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then he finally won the fucking title. And then, you know, a lot of people are synonymous with certain belts. Ric Flair with the big gold. John Cena with the spinner. MJF with the triple B. the first person you think of when you think of the Big Eagle is Austin.
No question.
Because they never gave him the opportunity with the Winged Eagle. The next night, he got handed a brand new WWE Championship, and they retired it. Because they were smart enough to know that that belt was a part of an era that's no longer going to be around, and they need to signify the passing of a new era, the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, Austin got his own custom belt, which is hard as fuck to find if you get a good one. Get it. I promise you, you won't regret it. I regret ever selling mine. But then, you know, they built the first Austin and Rock at WrestleMania 15. Felt good. Then they left it off the back burner. Then Austin got injured. Austin had to take off a fucking year because of his neck again. Did the whole fucking run your ass over with a car angle. Fucking Rikishi, go figure. Makes the fucking comeback. WrestleMania 17. The biggest WrestleMania in company history. Main evented by your number 3 and my number 2. The best build-up promo ever is that build-up promo between Rock and Austin 2. You can't deny that. With Limp Bizkit playing in the background. It is the most perfect storytelling I ever saw in my life. And that sit-down promo with The Rock and Stone Cold, and Austin said, I need this more than anything else in my life. I will do whatever I have to. And he fucking did. He sold his soul to the devil, which, hindsight, bad fucking call. Everybody says so. But he wanted to work heel. How else are you going to turn Austin heel? You fucking can't. He was still being cheered. And then the fucking alliance shit happened. Right? And he was with the fucking WCW until the Survivor Series where he fucking turned face again. Because they knew it was a fucking thing. And then, you know, he took his fucking ball and went home about 6-7 months later because creatively, and I agree with him, creatively it did not make sense for Austin and Lesnar to fucking work a TV. Let alone have Austin lose to Lesnar on TV. That was a pay-per-view quality match in itself. Austin knew that. Vince didn't want to hear it. All he heard was, you know, fuck, you just don't want to put the younger talent over, whatever. He fucking went home. And then what happened? He's gone 7 months. He comes back at fucking No Way Out 2003, which is when I got back into wrestling. Beginning of 2003, like the Royal Rumble era. So, I'm following the whole Eric Bischoff thing. Not really understanding what it was between Austin and Bischoff because I wasn't watching WCW where all that happened and him getting fired. I didn't watch ECW at that time. Not until later on in like 97. But that was the first pay-per-view I ever ordered was 2003 for that return. The biggest pop I ever heard up to that point. And essentially it was a couple punches, a couple kicks, and 3 stunners. And the crowd was right here in the palm of his hand. How do you get better than that? Rock Austin 3. Rock Austin 3. Not their best match. Because, you know, Austin obviously had health problems going into that day. Like, he was in the hospital before. But he wrestled his fucking ass off. Not knowing that was his last match. Essentially, for his full-time career. You know, because those plans for him to go into the Elimination Chamber and win the title and shit like that. And, you know, we're Goldberg later in the year. That's for another time. But he took so much in such a short amount of time. Stone Cold Steve Austin essentially was just a 5-year character. Half a decade. And he became the biggest merch seller. He became the biggest babyface of all time. You can say what you will. He's a bigger babyface than Hulk Hogan in the 80s. He's a babyface than Sting in the early 90s. We'll fight over that. We'll go head to head on that. Nobody was the epitome of professional wrestling of WWE from 98 to now than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Excuse me. And the fact that almost 20 years later, he comes back at a WrestleMania and main events night 1 with Kevin Owens. Not only main events it, but he looks fucking good. Yes, he's limited on what he can do. But what he did looked like Austin of 2002,
Right.
Austin of 2001. He took, again, a negative, which was his limitations, and turned into a positive, being one of the best segments / best matches of WrestleMania weekend last year. And Kevin did all the build of that. All he had to do was show up. Name me one other person that all they have to do is show up to a fucking show. And they sell out arenas.
Mm-mm.
They sold out Alamo Dome. 100,000 fucking people. So for that reason, for what he did in such a short amount of time, for how he evolved the business, is the reason he is my number 2.
Well, I will see your Austin at number 2, and I will raise you Austin at number 2.
Yes, sir! Yes, sir! That's what I'm talking about. Oh, hell yeah!
The most important feud in WWF/WWE history, Rock versus McMahon.
Fuck, I didn't even cover that. You're right.
The most important wrestler in WWE's history, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The man was the Attitude Era. The man embodied the everyman. He was the reason why people loved him so much is because everybody wants to tell their boss to go fuck themselves. Everybody wants to walk into their boss's office and fucking stun them. Everybody wants to show up to a hospital that their boss is in and whack him in the head with a bedpan. Like, it's the reason he was just the everyman of professional wrestling, and he still to this day is the biggest draw in professional wrestling history. The biggest moneymaker. He is the greatest WWE superstar of all time.
Oh, 100%, my dude. 100%. Oh, damn. 2 out of 10 so far. I think that's pretty good for me and you to be in agreement on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Austin was by far my favorite WWE character during the Attitude Era.
Dude, Austin was the reason I couldn't watch WWE in '98. I still did, but he was the reason I was not allowed. It was bad morals he was teaching.
Yes, it was.
Now, granted, I grew up with my grandparents that grew up in the 20s. So, anyway.
And drum roll, please. What is your number 1 pick?
Well, before we get to number 1, I did have a couple of honorable mentions. I did want to get out there. Okay. Just get their names out. Number 1, Ric Flair. For everything that you said, I could not disagree with that. He just wasn't in my top 10. The Great Muta. For everything he was able to do in Japan, bring that over into the United States.
The Great Muta's feuds with Sting were defining of the NWA.
Exactly. The Briscoes, Mark and Jay. I tried so hard to get them on my top 10, and I sat here and I just went back and forth with myself, and it, like, to the point I was pissing myself off. And DDP.
Okay.
DDP was the reason I watched WCW. Especially when 98 started up and he was just getting that fire. I couldn't turn away. I wanted to see how he hit the diamond cutter that week. I wanted to see how innovative he did. Like, when he hit Eddie Guerrero with the fucking the lift cutter from the powerbomb position, I marked the fuck out as a fucking 8-year-old little boy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? God, dog. When I first saw the fireman's carry This is before I saw Mark Merrow use the TKO. I was like, fuck, that's ingenious.
Yep.
Like,
when he hit the diamond cutter on the Macho Man on the ground when he had pulled away the mat, I thought Macho was dead. That's how deadly I felt the diamond cutter was. Like,
because it was fucking made to believe that way. And then my last honorable mention, which I don't know how you feel about this, it's Randy Orton. Similar to how Taker was in the same company for 30 years. If John Cena's been the constant babyface of that era, Orton was always that constant heel that was able to go with him very well. Their countless matches are immortalized. They cannot be fucking replicated. Even you know, just how diabolical. Especially after like 2007, he got real into like that dark Viper Predator character. That Randy Orton is the reason he's on my honorable mentions, but I just couldn't put him on my top 10.
Dude, Randy Orton is our generation's version of poetry in motion. Everything he does is perfect in the ring.
So fucking smooth.
And you're right about that shit about his diabolical streak. I mean, when he burned down Sister Abigail's house, that was fucking epic.
That was as a baby face.
Yeah. And there was a point in time where Vince McMahon wanted to punish a wrestler on TV, he would send out Randy Orton.
Yep.
I remember him, the Big Show having a clash, and he goes, "Well, I got a match for you, son," and out comes the Viper. And I mean, he was just a machine. Not only that, but from a worker's perspective, one of the softest and most safe workers they've ever been with. I mean, everything that he does looks great, has a snap, but they are not, nothing is stiff. Everybody loves working with Randy Orton. Completely added unbelievable athleticism to the Diamond Cutter or the RKO. When he hits it, it's absolutely gorgeous. Probably the most
out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most iconic WWE finisher. He's just he is that guy, and I gotta agree with you that he's definitely honorable mention and probably in my top 15.
Yeah, I mean, he would probably be number 11 if we did a top 11, but I couldn't put him there where Daniels is for the reasons I said earlier in the show. But for number 1, I kind of cheated. I cheated our rules because I couldn't just pick one. Remember when we went back and we were talking about the 2006 DX stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tag team. My number 1 pick is the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels and the Game Triple H. Again, not only for their stuff together, but their stuff separately.
Touche.
Well, let me give you a little clarification. The reason I did that is because in my mind, it is the most, if you think about it hard enough, is the most beautiful long-term storytelling in WWE. You have 2 renegades going against the Machine in 97, telling their boss, fuck off, to suck it. Okay? 25 years later, where the fuck are they at? Triple H damn near runs the fucking company. Shawn Michaels runs NXT. They essentially told their bosses to fuck off. We're the bosses now. Right? But let's look at their accolades, man. Triple H, 14-time world champion, former Intercontinental champion, former European champion, former Royal Rumble winner. He's done it all in this business, right? He's the current chief content officer. He's current COO. He's married the boss's daughter. He's essentially living a professional wrestler's American dream. He went from nothing, being a low-class bodybuilder terrorizing, to being one of the most powerful people in professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he I don't want to say he politicked his way, because he kind of did, but he worked his ass off for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then, Shawn Michaels. Everything you said about Shawn. At the end of the day, and, we've had this conversation, you're one of two people. You're either a Brett guy or a Shawn guy. I'm always going to be a Shawn guy. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, Brett screwed Brett on that. He did not want to do business. But Mr. WrestleMania, think of all the main events. The Iron Man match. WrestleMania 12. 60 minutes, not a single pinfall. Sudden death. Let's think of the ladder match at WrestleMania 10 with Scott Hall. Innovated a brand new style of match. Okay? 98, Michaels Austin. The passing of the torch into officially what I call the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
The comeback. The comeback in 2002. Beautiful storytelling. You thought they were back together. And I don't know if you watched it. I know I did. When they did that DX entrance in 2002. And then Hunter turned on Shawn. Hit the pedigree on him, right? The next week, they're still playing that story, but they find Shawn busted up in the fucking parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And a fucking switch flips. It's no longer Triple H. It's fucking Paul Levesque going, oh, fuck, my buddy's fucked up. And you believed it.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up until they revealed that Triple H fucking did it. It was all story.
Mm-hmm.
Storytelling. Then you get the fucking comeback match in 2002. Still one of my favorite matches to watch between them two. That and the Last Man Standing at Royal Rumble 04 and their Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood 04. My top three matches for them two, excuse me. The Elimination Chamber, where he finally won the world title. I think in my opinion, that was just, thank you for doing this. We'll give you a title run to, say thank you.
Mm.
Since you're doing your comeback. Then, one of the greatest underestimated matches in Shawn Michaels' career, Michaels Jericho WrestleMania 19. A lot of people don't think about that when they think about them two. They think about that ladder match they had. They think about when Jericho hit his wife at SummerSlam, like fucking 10 years later. They don't think about WrestleMania 19 and that build-up. The young rookie vet trying to outdo essentially his teacher. That was fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can go on and on. I can go through his whole fucking career. We ain't got enough time.
Yeah.
But, all that shit. The fucking matches with Kurt Angle. The fucking the three matches he had with him. The one at fucking WrestleMania 21, which Kurt Angle still says is the greatest match he ever had. You have the rematch at Vengeance, where Shawn got his win back. And then you got an Iron Man match on Raw 15th anniversary, I believe is what it was, when they went back to USA. 30-minute Iron Man match. I think it was 4-3. I believe Angle won that. I have to go back and check. But the man never had a bad match. Let me correct myself. The man never had a bad match on WWE TV. There's that one match from TWA in Texas that's been floating around recently. It's shit. It's hot garbage. But in WWE, he's never had a bad match. He's never told a bad story. Same for Triple H.
Mm,
Once he broke out of that blue blood shell,
right.
he fucking soared. And I mean, he ate a lot of shit. Especially in that fucking MSG fiasco, the curtain call.
Mm,
He ate shit, liked the taste of it, and went on. And I believe if it wasn't for that, we would not have the Triple H we have today.
most likely.
In my opinion. Again, former 14-time world champion with Triple H. Current COO. Current chief operating officer. The man, I envy this man. And God bless him for everything he's done for us. Both of them. But, I mean, I can go on and on all night for this, but I'm gonna cut a little short because I'm really interested on your number one. But for what they've done, all the way to what they're doing now for the younger talent, for the newer talent, is the reason DX is my number one. And if you're not down with that, I have 2 words for you.
You're definitely sneaky. Definitely sneaky to be able to put two top 10s anywhere into one pick.
To be fair, these were your rules. I abide by your rules.
Hey, you're right. I didn't even consider them as a tag team. Should have. Didn't even. All right. My number one pick. 11-time world champion. The greatest U.S. champion of all time.
Mm-hmm.
The only man in the late 80s and early 90s who could rival Hulk Hogan's popularity. The reason I am a wrestler. The icon Sting.
Fuck. God damn it, I lost. I have my money on Brian Cage. I thought that all that shit was a fucking
This is partly a Mark pick because I was a little Stinger. All right, I went as Sting many times for Halloween. You know, I was there from the Surfer days. I went to Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum to watch Sting every time they came here as a kid.
Yep.
You
went home to watch 605 because you knew he was match 1 or 2.
That's right. I mean, the by far the biggest name in WCW history. You can say Ric Flair, but I say he's more linked to the NWA WCW era than the WCW standalone era.
Yep.
Also a great tag team wrestler. Several time WCW tag champion with Lex Luger. 6-time WCW champ, TNA champion multiple times. There were several promotions that popped up after WCW that tried to take that slot.
Yep.
He world champion there. Great feuds in Japan with the Great Muta. As over in Japan as anybody.
Yep.
That storyline going into War Games against the NWO when they introduced the NWO Sting and everybody thought Sting had turned. And then, Sting comes out as the last member of the NWO team and everyone thinks it's Sting. And then finally, our Sting comes out, lays waste to everybody and fucking leaves.
Not a word.
Not a word. Laid waste.
He went a year without a word.
Without a word. The Crow character is by far the biggest influence on my character. He didn't talk much. He didn't have to talk much. He didn't have expression. He was the stoic superhero.
He was WCW's Undertaker at that time.
Absolutely. From the slow progress, from the blonde hair to the slow progress into the darker but still long, colorful trunks, to the Crow character, to the Wolfpack character, to the TNA years with that version of the Crow Sting, into even the Joker. The Joker was not my favorite character of his, but he played it masterfully. His shitty run in WWE, where they were just like, fuck you might be one of the greatest of all time, but you're not winning in our show. Like, I just can't say enough about this man, coming up, not even knowing what professional wrestling was. Found in the gym by Boss Rutan, professional bodybuilder on Venice Beach, comes in, he picks two of the biggest guys in the fucking gym, him and Jim Hellwig, put them together as the Blade Runners. The one out of the two of them who cared about improving his craft.
Are you on the fuck Warrior bandwagon?
When it comes to that pair, yeah, absolutely. Warrior didn't give a shit about his wrestling ability. He thought he should just be able to show up, run to the ring, and bulldoze everybody, and he got away with it for a long time. But he was god awful. Okay, we're talking Goldberg during the Lord Regal match awful. All right.
Yep.
But Sting worked on his craft. Ric Flair took him under his wing, and they had that 45-minute show on live free TV going against WrestleMania and made Sting a star on that Clash of the Champions. Deceptively one of the most powerful men in wrestling. I remember in one of the War Games, he had Ravishing Rick Rude, and he was just military pressing him into the cage roof. Boom, boom. This dude was a powerhouse, but he also could come off the top rope. One of the most iconic finishers in professional wrestling. And yes, motherfuckers, he had it before Bret Hart had it. Okay? He learned it in Japan and brought it to the United States before Bret Hart. So I don't want to hear this excellence of execution bullshit. Sting learned that move first, brought it here, and they took it from him.
Call it the proper move. Call it the proper move.
The Scorpion Deathlock. It will always be the Scorpion Deathlock to me. He was, when he first came out of the rooftop and hit Rick Steiner with a Scorpion Death Drop, I thought that was the coolest move ever. A reverse DDT. I thought he broke the motherfucker's neck. I mean, it was when he finally started interjecting into the NWO shit, and still that teetering on if he's with us or if he's against us, and the final reveal when he attacked Hogan when they tried to bring him into the NWO. That was by far the most important storyline in WCW history, one of the most important storylines in pro wrestling history, and certainly the biggest name to come out of Crockett, NWA, and WCW.
Well, you're probably not going to like this very much. I didn't watch Sting at all until he went to TNA. That's where my interest in Sting started. So, I mean, granted, I knew about his WCW stuff. I didn't really watch it because I was elsewhere. But just from his TNA run, watching, I don't even really think that was Sting. I think that was just Steve, an extension of Steve Borden.
Mm-hmm.
His entire run, even the Joker stuff, which I thought was god awful. But it's another one of those things where he turned chicken shit into chicken salad.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be mad at your number one. I respect that. I can hear the passion in your voice anytime you speak of Sting, and especially here tonight, where you were just like on this fucking soapbox, just giving such praise to him. Like, I don't feel that I gave that much praise to the reason I am a wrestling fan, Raven, or the reason I'm in this business, The Undertaker. You spoke of this man as if, essentially he's a father figure to your whole wrestling career. I mean, am I wrong in like, am I reading too much into just how much?
He was my hero. He was some kids idolize Walter Payton and Joe Montana. I'm a huge Joe Montana guy. But when it comes to sports idols, Sting is by far and away the king of my sports idols, and to me, the greatest of all time.
Okay. I respect that.
And that storyline in TNA where Jeff Jarrett was like stalking him, and he finally came back for that match with him when he incorporated red into his face paint, and at 50 years old he looked ripped coming into that match.
Bound for Glory 2006 is that match.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go back and watch that, the build-up, go back 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Impact Plus, go back 6 weeks from Bound for Glory 2006 and just watch the build-up. Because when he returns on Impact, he makes it very clear, you're not messing with Sting at this point. You are now dealing with Steve Borden, the person.
Mm-hmm.
And he beat the teetotal fuck out of Scott Steiner. The fuck out of Scott Steiner. You don't see Scott Steiner lay down for anybody. He laid down for fucking Sting that night. And then to add more into that was also Kurt Angle's like first big thing in TNA, is when he was the special enforcer for Jarrett and Sting. And if I remember correctly, that was the first time Sting won the NWA title under the TNA banner.
Correct. Which
was technically his last NWA title, because the following years when the NWA pulled out and then TNA got their own stuff.
Mm.
But that was a magical moment. Like, now granted, that was also when Jeff was having issues with his then wife as she was passing on.
Mm.
And you can tell that Jeff wasn't all the way there. But I don't think in that match, in that environment, that Jeff was not in any better hands with Sting. And Sting was able to, even there's a spot in the match before the referee gets knocked out and Kurt got to get in. You can see Jeff like just off. Like he's not there for a split second, and you see Sting just like give him an icky, and he gets him right back in it.
Mm.
Sting he can carry anybody. I don't fucking care. I will fucking say that. I will go so far as saying Sting could be on my Mount Rushmore. The argument can be made there. But for that night, for that match, Sting was the MVP, carrying TNA from that point onward.
Well, let's just go through some of the feuds you may not be familiar with, because there was a big chunk during his Surfer Sting era where they just kept giving him monster after monster after monster. His feud with Big Van Vader,
I did watch those.
Was amazing. And then they followed that up with a feud with Haku, and then a feud with Cactus Jack. Like
that if you send those to me, if you find the Cactus Jack matches, I would love to watch those.
Dude, it's so amazing. But It was these huge monsters that he, and it was great stuff. And then he moved on, obviously. But in TNA, a lot of people don't remember this, but TNA at the very beginning was a weekly pay-per-view.
$9.99.
Yep, every Wednesday night.
I paid for them.
Yep, and Sting made his first appearance in years at one of those, teaming with AJ Styles. One of AJ's first matches in TNA.
I believe that was I want to say week 8, because that's when they just went to the asylum in Nashville.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember that because the week after is when I moved up to Nashville with my uncles, the Harris twins, from WC. Everybody, we'll go into that another time. But I just moved up there because I got into some issues here down in Florida, and it was best thought that I get out of Florida for a while, to try to get myself straight again. So every Wednesday night when they did the tapings, I was there for like 8 weeks straight. If you go back and watch them, I'm up there next to the Crow's Nest, Ravensville area. You'll see a little fucking kid with fucking black and green hair and fucking guy liner and a fucking fishnet shirt every fucking Wednesday night there. Yes, I was that kid at fucking 13. I'm sorry. I'm not fucking sorry. Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
You don't like to kick my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was there for a lot of like the early TNA stuff before they moved to Orlando. But the fact that I missed that match by a fucking week still pisses me off to this day. I wish I got in trouble a week earlier just to get the fuck up there.
and no, a lot of people don't remember this, but Sting was the victim of that embarrassing Jeff Hardy incident when he showed up completely drugged out of his fucking mind.
Why did you bring that up?
Because everybody remembers Jeff Hardy for that, but his opponent was Sting.
I remember that whole fucking ordeal. I remember in great fucking detail watching that shit live. I knew fucking Hardy was fucked up. And I knew they were fucking calling a curveball the moment fucking Bischoff went out there and was trying to fucking talk sense into him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that whole fucking ordeal, like, and I'm glad Jeff, in a sense, kind of got better as years went on, but dude, that championship win should not be on Sting's record. As much as he's earned every championship he's ever won, that title run should have been just taken off. Like, that was more or less a fucking mercy kill.
Yeah. So, but I gotta tell you, man, this has been like the funnest show we've done. I fucking love this.
You're not wrong. I quite enjoyed this. I think we need to do more top 10s or top 5s, even.
Yeah.
It looks like we're running over 2 hours now, so this is probably the longest show we've done so far. But I really fucking enjoyed not only the fucking research into this, but just the back and forth banter. And the fact that we got at least 2 out of 10 on the same thing, being fucking John Cena number 5 and Austin number 2. Really good shit. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm really glad we decided to do this more on a night thing for this one than an early morning, so we're a little more, alert. But I really enjoyed this one, my guy.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I hope you enjoyed listening and watching as much as we enjoyed making it. Once again, if you could take just a split second, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, follow the podcast, become a regular downloader.
Let me tell you, this is how you do it. For those of you on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Gotta comment your shit in, man. Gotta comment. You can't get us on the emails, you can't get us on Twitter, put that YouTube comment down there. We will be sure to reply to you. We will be sure to read off your stuff on our next show, if it's good enough. Make sure you let your voices be heard. Comment. We're on Instagram. We're on fucking Twitter. YouTube, all our podcast outlets, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, we're out there. Make your voices heard. If you disagree with our top 10, if you have a compelling argument against any of our top 10, please let us know. We have no problem having a good, clear conversation. We're not going to argue like little bitches, little fucking snowflakes, but we will sit here and have a conversation. Point, counterpoint this shit. Please let your voices be heard. This podcast is the voice of the voiceless, so to speak, for professional wrestling. Please like, comment, and subscribe to all of Heel Shit Podcasts.
Absolutely. We make it real easy. All social media, YouTube, anywhere you search Heel Shit Podcast. At Heel Shit Podcast, YouTube, Heel Shit Podcast, and Heel Shit Podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And why? Because bad guys do heel shit. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for our week in wrestling. And we love all you. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.